All right, everyone, we're going to get started in the interest of time. I know colleagues have other meetings to go to. So welcome distinguished guests and colleagues from national libraries, academic libraries, public libraries, and special libraries. We're deeply honored that you're here joining us for this discussion. And we're also joining across time zones, across world regions, and that's never easy. And thank you very much. On behalf of all my colleagues in the Slavic Reference Service, we wish you good health as we recover from this global pandemic. We also wish we're sending good wishes, I should say, to our colleagues in the hopeful recovery in Cape Town due to the fire at their library. And I hope they're able to, through our help, recover in the future. I think when we designed this series, Meet the National Libraries, we wanted to highlight and discuss the extraordinary contributions of national libraries and the role they play in not only maintaining the vast networks of libraries in their countries, but around the world, but also the role they play in supporting scholarly communities. And especially during a global health crisis, the extraordinary contributions of national libraries are pretty evident for everyone to see. I am extremely delighted and honored that the National Library of the Czech Republic is featured in this segment of Meet the National Libraries. Scholars and librarians alike recognize the rich history as well as its world-renowned collections, resources, and services available for free, as you can see from their amazing directory of resources featured. It is free for anyone to use. For the Slavicist in the room, I think we all recognize what an amazing research library the Slavonic Library is, headed by our amazing colleague, Dr. Łukasz Babka. And I am so, once again, I'm deeply honored to welcome our colleagues from the National Library. And before we get to Tomáš Foltýn, I would like to turn this over to my colleague, Olga Makarova, who is going to talk just briefly, highlight the services of the Slavic Reference Service, and then we're going to turn it over to our Czech colleagues. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. All right. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. And thank you very much for joining us. Before we begin, let me do a little bit of promotion and tell you briefly about the Slavic Reference Service. We are the part of International and Area Studies Library at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. And since 1976, Slavic Reference Service provides reference and research assistance in all subject matters related to Russian, East European, and Eurasian studies. We offer consultations, instruction sessions, organize workshops and panel discussions. This semester, we were hosting the virtual open research laboratory, and now we are in a process of getting ready for the summer research laboratory for scholars from all over the world. With our help, researchers can have access to our vast collection of Slavic materials. For instance, currently we offer duplication services so that our patrons can consult print materials in our collections, otherwise that do not have access to. Overall, we provide library support for students, faculty, and independent scholars. We work with other institutions and librarians, but our work wouldn't be possible without all the resources and support and assistance that we receive from national libraries. And as Joe mentioned, we're very grateful for the National Library of the Czech Republic to be featured in our series and be our guest today. Let me share our agenda for today. As you can see, we have a Q&A session at the very end, but at any moment of the presentations, please feel free to type your questions and we'll make sure to read them at the end. And now I turn it over to our first speaker, Tomáš Foltýn, Collections Management Director. Thank you.
It's better. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, on behalf of the National Library of the Czech Republic, I would like to welcome you to this event. It's my great pleasure that I can share some brief information about the Czech Republic, Czech librarianship, and the National Library of Czech Republic itself to you. So please turn to the next slide. Czech Republic, and I hope every one of you knows it, it's located in the heart of the Europe, in the Central Europe region. Next slide, please. We are talking about Czech Republic, so please don't name us Czechia or Czechoslovakia. This is something coming from the past or from abroad. Our capital city is Prague. It is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. It's the masterpiece of art and of the cultural life. We are very famous not only for Czech art, Czech hockey, but also for Czech beer culture, and I hope everybody can taste it. Czech Republic is a pretty small country. Our size is around 80,000 square meters, and we have almost 11 million inhabitants. Next one, please. Now, I would like to talk a bit about the National Library of Czech Republic itself. National Library is one of the biggest libraries in the Czech Republic. In our library work more than 460 employees. We store more than 7.5 million documents, and our budget is higher than 26 million of euros. Our duties are pretty broad. I remarked some of them. One of our main duties is to keep and preserve our collection and historical identity to the future. We also guaranteed an equal access to our collections to the broad audience, and we also provide various services for our users. Next one, please. National Library of Czech Republic is located in the various locations. The most important one, it's Clementinum. It's located in the city center of Prague, and it is the masterpiece of Baroque architecture of the world. Next one, please. The second location we used, it's a central depository in Hoskivas. Hoskivas is the quarter of the Prague, located around 15 kilometers far from the city center of Prague. We use this repository as the main repository building for our collection, but also for the collection management development, some of our services, and also for the long-term preservation of our collections. Next one, please. Now I would like to share with you some information about our history. As I mentioned in the beginning of my speech, our history is very broad. It comes back to the 16th century when Jesuits came to Bohemia and built a college upon the ruins of the Dominican monastery in the city center of Prague. And because of Jesuits, this place is still called Clementinum. Our collections are pretty broad also because of our legal deposit copy legislation. Very important date for this duty is the year 1807, where the legal deposit copy was extended to cover all Czech printers. The modern history of the National Library of Czech Republic is closely connected with the 90s, where the library was renamed from the former National University Library to the name National Library of the Czech Republic, the name we hold also in the present time. Next one, please. Now I would like to say a few words about our collections. When we start with the modern collection, I need to say we have two legal deposit copies. The first of them, it's located in a so-called National Archival collection. This collection is the most important collection of the modern documents in the Czech Republic, not only because of its comprehensiveness. All the documents we stored in the National Archival collections are made available only on-site. In the qualified cases, when it's impossible to find the same document in different libraries in the Czech Republic. Second deposit copy, it's stored in so-called university library collections. Also here are the documents available on site, but some part of this collection can be used also outside of the library by our users. Next one, please. Of course, we store also some rare pieces of manuscripts, old prints, and other important collections. Probably the most famous and most important document we stored in our collection is called Codex of Vyšehrad. It's the oldest manuscript document connected to the Czech countries, and its history is getting back to the 11th century, so to the Middle Ages. Next one, please. Our organization structure, it's a bit complicated. You can see it on this picture, but there are still some time to find some other solution, how make this organization chart more flexible, more useful, and more prepared for the future life of the library. Next one. What is very interesting and famous about Czech libraries is the fact that Czech Republic has the densest network of the libraries probably all around the world. As you can see on this picture, in the Czech Republic, we get more than one slide back, more than 3 libraries to 10,000 citizens in our population. And this number is pretty high if you compare it with other European countries. Next one, please. Now, I would like to say a few words about the Czech libraries. The number of libraries in the Czech Republic is pretty high. We have more than 6,000 libraries. There is very strong cooperation among all the Czech libraries. And the heart of the system is of course, the National Library. Our responsibilities are the coordination, standardization activities, research, and of course, the methodological support to other Czech libraries in the system. We are also responsible for the preparation of strategic documents. Here you can see some most important documents from the past, as the strategy of the Czech libraries development from 2021 to 2027, or the National State Culture Policy of the Czech Republic for 2016 and 2020. Some of the library employees are also regular members of the Central Library Council of the Czech Republic. This council is the advisory board of the Ministry of Culture and can share visions to the future, how to develop the Czech libraries and how to prepare the libraries for the future challenges. Next one, please. And finally, I would like to say a few words about key tasks for the National Library in the future. We are still thinking about our locations. We are still preparing some plans how to create a new library building. But truly said, I need to say that the past project called Eye Above the Prague is completely dead, and we need to find some other solution, some other space, and also some funding and political support, how to build the new library building, which can offer the new services for our users. One of our key tasks for the near future is also to analyze how to prepare the change between our Aleph library catalog system to the new solution for the future. Because as you probably know, Aleph libraries will be separated in the near future. I need to say also that the Czech Republic and the National Library of Czech Republic itself is the star in the digitization activities across Europe. We would like to continue by all existing digitization activities, including Manuscriptorium, Digital Library Grammarius, or Web Archive, and promote our data to the scientific community, especially in the area of the digital humanities. And what is also very important, we would like to still follow the progressive trends in the librarianship and become the truly modern national library. Next one, please. That's all from me now, from the beginning. I would like to thanks to all of you for your participation. And now I would like to share a word with Adolf Knoll, our Deputy Director for the Science, Research and International Cooperation. Adolf, the floor is yours. Adolf, please, we can hear you.
The same problem. So good morning and good evening for some of us. Next slide, please. We can start with the next slide. Yes, so these are some digitization milestones. As you can see, we started rather early in the beginning of 90s. It simply happened to us because we wanted to support the UNESCO Memory of the World program with some digitization projects. We were rather successful, and this pushed us to create in 1995, 1996, the first digitization center in the National Library. And we started in 96, the day-to-day routine digitization production that was concentrated on manuscripts and old printed books. Later on, in 1999, we added another digitization line that concerned in the beginning the periodicals, and a bit later modern monographs, as we say in our country. Modern monographs, it means everything published after 1800. And in 2003, we launched 2 digital libraries, one for older documents and one for periodicals and modern monographs. Next slide, please. I have to mention the document formats we have been using. When we were starting in 95, 96, we were thinking how to start to be relatively independent on concrete software. And I think we were one of the first institutions, at least in Europe, which started to use the SGML platform for enveloping the data that issued from digitization. And for this, we even wrote something as the first language based on XML. In a way, it was a kind of primitive predecessor of XML. In the year 2000, we entered in a European project that was called Master. And the aim of Master was to use the TI language for description of manuscripts. This project was rather successful, and 2 years later, we enlarged this description part with other metadata, especially for structural maps of manuscripts, and started to use this enlarged format for manuscripts. And in a parallel way, we wrote another XML-based format for digitized periodicals and monographs. Other important moments were a bit later. For manuscripts and old printed books, it was the year 2008 when we were leading a large European project called Enrich. And the aim of Enrich was to share the digital output of European digitization activities across the manuscript digital library, of which I will talk later. And within this project, an interesting format was created. It is a kind of exchange format for various digitization activities. It is an internal format of the Manuscriptorium Digital Library. 3 years later, the new format for periodicals and modern documents was created, and it's a National Digital Library format. Next slide, please. I will then now talk about the two digital libraries. One of them is Manuscriptorium Digital Library. It was launched in 2003, and it is a unique platform for digital access to historical documents in the Czech Republic. Here there is an answer to one of the questions that appeared. We have more than 60 participating institutions in the Czech Republic, maybe 70 even. And what is important, the digitization here is supported by the Czech Ministry of Culture. And in order to receive money, the institutions have to follow the document format that is prescribed by the National Library. So we have here, and also in another digitization, something as national formats. The Manuscriptorium Digital Library aggregates not only the data from Czech institutions, but we have more than 60 partners, especially in Europe. And we talk about seamless aggregation because in real time, on the fly, we are reusing data from partner digital libraries. Manuscriptorium is also a catalog. So we have important bibliographic records on this from these 100, about 30, 40 libraries, which there are full digitized volumes, around 153,000. There are even more titles because the target of the description is a physical volume. Next slide, please. Manuscriptorium is using for aggregation, harvest of descriptive and structural metadata via the OII protocol, but we are using also the IIIF format for sharing digital images. We are offering content via IIIF, and we are also harvesting content via IIIF. And we have also developed some IIIF tools. We have a reader for personal access from all the resources that use the IIIF protocol. And we have also presentation tools for personalized work based on IIIF. The Manuscriptorium content is available through Urbana and some other services as EBSCO, ProQuest, Summon, and other. Next slide, please. The second digital library is called National Digital Library or Kramerius Digital Library. It was launched also in the same year as Manuscriptorium, and it provides access to digitized periodicals and books published after 1800. It is very rich. You can see there are 232,000 documents and even more today. But we have a copyright problem here. You can see that the number of out-of-copyright works is relatively small. Within the Czech Republic, for our registered users, there is a possibility to access about 66,000 of out-of-print works or out-of-command works. And there are also a large number of digitized periodical titles. We have many libraries in the Czech Republic that are running Kramerius instances, and all this output is covered by the Czech Digital Library Portal, and the Czech Digital Library Portal connects this output to Urbana. Next slide, please. As to data production, we have today outsourced digitization for historical materials and in-house mass digitization facilities for modern materials. We have had also a Google project. Within the Google project, we digitized more than 200,000 books, of which about 85% are historical, old printed books, and about 15% books from the Slavic library from the 19th century. All of them are out of print books. Both digitization activities have registries for coordination of digitization. There is a digitization registry for modern documents, and there is something that we call Index of Digital Heritage for manuscripts and old printed books. And there is also a seamless aggregation there. Next slide, please. We are trying to add value to our data. So we are connected to Urbana as a major European gateway to cultural heritage. Both digitization activities are developing personalization tools to create virtual collections and virtual exhibitions. We are trying to involve people to enhance the metadata. So some tools for crowdsourcing are being developed. We have for historical documents or for any documents that are compatible with IIIF reader for IIIF. And of course, we are using money from projects and institutional research for further development around our digitized collections. Next slide, please. So that's all for digitization, and I would like to give the word to Zdenko Vozár to talk about National Digital Library and the COVID pandemic.
Thank you very much. Hello. COVID pandemic brought upon culture, education, and research by successive lockdowns, virtual stops of circulation of printed materials and books. In this presentation, I will show you shortly how the National Library of the Czech Republic tackled with this unprecedented situation by upgrading licensing and technical aspects of the National Digital Library. Next slide, please. In the short overview, I will present you the content of a digital library, its law and technical aspects. Then I will speak chronologically about the major milestones of evolution of the pandemic and digital library in our regional situation. And finally, recapitulate the important evolution of the National Digital Library. Next slide, please. National Digital Library, which was created during the last decade as one of the European project initiative, furthering the initiative which were before, as Mr. Knoll said, consists mainly of the 19th, 20th, and 21st century digitized prints, around 220,000 monographies and 4,000 periodics. Here I visualize the structure of font and its public accessibility. Because most modern prints are still under copyright, digital content without specific license was freely online accessible, chronologically speaking, just up end of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, at beginning of the 20th century. As you could see, public documents, blue collar sectors, are not so frequent in more recent and for education also more important literature. Next slide, please. We had a lot of interesting content, but relatively few visitors. The reason was outdated visual presentation and relatively limited content accessible from the public web. Also, on more technical level speaking, this was strongly outdated and unsupported hardware and software implementation, and there was no differentiation between ingest and view implementation. Next slide, please. From the 2018, we began successive works in modernization of every layer of implementation, which was much slower than planned due to the lack of almost everything. In 2019, we designed access to protect content out of commerce work, but primarily for access to the library network of the Czech Republic on the site itself, on the site of the library. However, next slide, please. However, the cost, okay, 2020 was a year as it was not before any. However, the cost was terrible. Year 2020 was memorable and brought breakthrough and important acceleration in technical development. Spread of the virus was expected, but strongly underrated in Czech Republic. During March 2020, In 7 days, Czech Republic closed almost all institutions. Agreement with collective administrator of rights was struck, and the next day we designed and also opened impromptu spin-off the digital library for universities and research sector. It was, next slide please. It was a new and unprecedented type of the service for education and R&D sector based on a unique and also free license from collective rights management organizations. Next slide. This service we continually developed in partnership with Moravian Library, which is our long-standing partner in many digital library projects. Most important step was aggregation of libraries from the national research network. This was followed by gaining the ability for National Library to provide protected content also to institutions beyond National Research Network identity cluster. It's around 1/3 of all institutions in the spring 2020. Please, next slide. We had major improvements during this operation, and also we need to ban some highly irregular users. During early May, the situation of outbreak was begun to better, so 19 May was the digital library was closed. Next slide, please. During operation, there were multiple challenges. Next slide. During operation, there were multiple challenges and important strain on personal resources, especially when the digital library was used intensively almost non-stop. In the end, actually, we created a new type of service, which was much more than before, and it is much more than just upgraded software. It was a real service on demand. Firstly, it was not easy, but we managed to streamline organization on operative processes and also began important technical upgrades and raised accessibility. When I should cherry pick one thing of the analysis from backlogs, we could derive that during just 1 month, there was a fast organic incorporation of the content of digital library books into school e-materials via direct hypertext. We actually provided most of materials which are not normally accessible to students, so it was really fastly incorporated into their curricula. There was very strong positive feedback on the service. It's blue part, full of, next slide. Blue part, full of solidarity and desire to use it further, possibly as individually or institutionally paid service for the Czech literature. However, the license ended and we continued in archival regime, as one of our users sarcastically noted. I hope that books locked in archive will bring you a pleasure. But next slide, but some changes were introduced. After the shutdown of the special digital library, we transformed our national library to regime where after login could be consulted works out of commerce, and during summer, step by step, we strike legal conventions about its usage with many other libraries. However, nice weather and attitude of the government bring a carefree culture which led Czech Republic into uncontrolled outbreaks of epidemic during autumn and continuous change of personnel and agenda of the Ministry of Public Health. Next slide, please. On the 28th October, there was a statewide lockdown, and again, by sanction of a new special license from collective rights management organizations, from evening 2nd to 3rd November, National Digital Library began to operate. Next slide. There were imposed deadlines by the free license of the end of this special regime, but the situation caused by the pandemic never permitted normal operation of libraries. Firstly, there was a wave of original strain of COVID. It was in autumn. Then 2 successive outbreaks of its British mutation with a serious casualties on the civilian population. So on the February 11th, an important agreement was struck between Ministry of Culture and the Association of Czech Booksellers and Publishers. From this on special license for National Digital Library, also as other public Czech digital libraries, was furthered, but it is funded by government, partly as a recompensation and support for publishers. This agreement made possible to provide books until the end of the July 2021. Next slide, please. Actually, there are two concurrent regimes, works out of commerce, covered by older agreements, next slide, and most recent and popular works which are covered by this newly license. All these payments will be based on the rather complicated calculations from usage statistics. Next slide, please. This meant progressive introduction of statistics to monitor real-time usage of protected works and compliance with GDPR and all legal ramifications around. Next slide, please. During our operation until now, for the second installment, now almost 5 months from the 3rd of November, we made agreement with more than 130 libraries, and for 40 libraries, we provide our own identity services, which they could use for the connection to the National Digital Library. We also provide them more than 16 million of pages of electronic content and for around 400,000 visitors totally for each day one. We also introduced into the library a lot of new features like pre-generated PDFs, performed migration of all repositories to pre-generate snapshots for the images, update all installations, and migrate towards a new servers and physical repository, which is quite large. Next slide. Here we could see the overview of different versions of new National Digital Library and finalization to one portal, which is National Digital Library, which has before a lot of offshots. Next slide, please. All in all, it meant unprecedented increase in users and intensity of usage of digital library. Next slide. There are further challenges ahead, such as broader introduction of individual licensing deals, implementation of terminals to network of digital libraries in Czech Republic, and also migration to Czech virtual cloud, also as the open endpoints per data science and for digital humanities. Next slide. Thank you very much for your attention.
So, hello everybody. Good morning or good afternoon. I'd like to give you a brief overview of our services and sources which could be useful for you and for your patrons as well. Next one, please. So, how to find information about our collections? Of course, the best way is to use our catalog. As you have already heard, the history of the National Library is quite long, and we have more than 7.5 million items in our collections. So unfortunately, our web catalog is simply not enough to describe all our collections. We have more catalogs, some specialized collections, for example, manuscripts and early printed books collection, or National Archival collection, or the Slavonic Library have their own catalog. So anytime you won't be able to find requested document in our catalogs, please feel free to contact us and we'll try to help you to identify the requested document. Next slide, please. Electronic catalog is recognized as our main catalog, which contains records of all documents acquired since 1995. When it comes to the production of Czech books, this catalog describes books published in the Czech Republic in the 21st and 20th century, and also most of the books published in the 19th century in our country, which are located in our collections. So also these documents are mentioned in this catalog. You can find here also information regarding Czech periodicals and other type of documents, generally from the early 1990s. When it comes to all the documents, they have been supplemented to this catalog on an ongoing basis. Next one, please. Sometimes it's necessary to combine our electronic catalog with our scanned general catalogs as well. We still use scanned catalogs to find documents which are not included in the electronic catalog of National Library. Scanned documents were closed in the year 1995. They are freely available and they have also English interface, and users can order documents via these scanned catalogs as well. Next one, please. We try to integrate as many sources as we can via our Discovery series. Currently, we are using EDS by EBSCO. Except the content supplied by EBSCO, users can find their information from the electronic catalogs of the National Library and the Slavonic Library. Also information from our digital libraries, records from the Union Catalog of the Czech Republic, and also information from most of the licensed databases prepaid for our users. You can use our EDS as a guest or identify yourself as a registered user. Guests can search our EDS, but only some information is available in full detail to them. Registered users have access to the full text from our licensed database also via EDS. I've already mentioned the licensed databases. We subscribe to more than 70 databases and we provide a remote access to our users to them as well. Only 2 or 3 licensed databases cannot be used via remote access. Mainly we subscribe to foreign databases, for example, EBSCO databases, databases by ProQuest, like ProQuest Central or ProQuest eBook Central, or databases by Springer. And only a few Czech databases are subscribed. As far as I know, we do not plan to subscribe to Czech ebooks on different platforms. Next one, please. In addition to catalogs I already presented, the National Library also processes a number of other databases which are accessible at the following address. Tomáš already mentioned that we use Adolf system, so we have both English and Czech interface, and all these databases are freely available. Next one, please. The National Library is also the Czech National ISBN and ISMN agency. The database named ISN contains basic bibliographic data on books and music items by Czech publishers, which are registered in the ISBN or ISMN system, and also includes the records of books and music items by non-registered publishers, which ask for individual ISBNs or ISMNs. So it means that this database gathers a priori information on still non-published books with assigned ISBNs or ISMNs. As soon as the National Library receives a legal deposit, this entry moves in the electronic catalog of National Library and disappears from this ISN database. Next one, please. Here you can see a list of other important databases which are produced by the National Library. All of them are freely available to public, to everyone. You will find among them, for example, the Czech National Bibliography, the first database, and the selective Alteca bibliography, the second one. The National Library also is responsible for the National Authority Database. We cooperate with VIAF or VIAF institution, organization, and with Wikimedia in this area. There's also the Directory of Publishers in the Czech Republic, which contains information about more than 5,500 Czech publishers. Next one, please. The National Library has an extensive collection of manuscripts and early printed books. So here, these 2 databases present a catalog of our old early printed books, so for part of them. And the second one presents database which describes early printed books published in our area in the past. Next one, please. Other databases produced by the National Library are focused on the information science and librarianship. We have a Library Information Science Library, which is a national information, documentation, and reference center for librarianship and information science. This library serves as a source of information for library professionals and builds several collections and databases of professional documents and information. Next one, please. Here we can see a list of databases produced by this library, and all of them are focused on librarianship information science. Among them, for example, I can mention Directory of Czech Libraries, so the last one. All of them are freely available again. Next one, please. You've already heard that a part of our collections have already been digitized. My colleagues mentioned that. And therefore, just for a summary, Manuscriptorium is focused on historical documents. It means on manuscripts, early printed books, old maps, etc. All content of this digital library is freely available, so feel free to use it. If you would like to obtain a copy from this digital library, please contact our colleagues from the manuscripts and early printed books department. There's an email address and they will let you know. Next one, please. My colleague Zdenko Vozár also mentioned the National Digital Library. This digital library is focused on, let's say, modern documents or published after 1800. It contains more than 232,000 documents, out of which more than 37,000 documents are in the public domain. So again, freely available part of them. Unfortunately, only books in the public domain, which are out of the copyright, are available in full text to anyone in the world on internet. The whole content of the National Digital Library is available from our computers only. Users of Czech libraries that have concluded an agreement with the National Library can log in to the National Digital Library and they can use remote access to so-called out-of-commerce works, as already my colleagues described. It's possible to search the whole National Digital Library for free. You can search full text. Only some results appear to you. Only free available documents. But you have to know Czech language or German language to be able to understand results found in the documents. If you would like to obtain a copy from this digital library, please contact our colleagues via mentioned order form and we will get in touch with you. Next one, please. The National Library is not the only Czech library that digitizes its collections. For that reason, a register of documents digitized in the Czech Republic was created. Its goal is to help verify whether a book, journal, or newspaper has been digitized. And this register is also helps to identify in which digital library is a document located. So again, it's free available. We also use it very often, so I can recommend you to use it as well. So next one, please. Even though we go on with digitization of our collections, we still have many non-digitized documents. So how to get an access to them? One of the services that might be of interest to you is called eBooks on Demand, or EOD. This digital document supply service is focused on books in the public domain, which haven't been digitized yet. EOD ebook means that we digitize the book from cover to cover, so only one page or one chapter, but the whole book from cover to cover. And the digitized book is delivered to you as a PDF file. And this PDF file contains image of the scanned original book as well as the automatically recognized full text. Next one, please. There are no big restrictions in using ebooks, so it belongs to the user who has ordered this digitization. It can be used for personal purposes, but they shouldn't be posted on the internet and made available to third parties or disseminated for commercial purposes. So how to order EOD? EOD is a network of libraries coordinated from Austria, from Innsbruck, the University of Innsbruck. So we are a member of this network. And it's possible to search and order ebook through EOD libraries online catalogs or via a common in search engine on EOD network's website. Anytime you see a button, which is presented here, EOD ebooks and more in our catalogs, which are mentioned below, you can order ebook. And here you can see some detail of the ebook. It's delivered in a PDF, and usually it's paid by credit card. So next one, please. We also offer other type of duplication services. We can provide you with digital copies of individual pages, articles, chapters, etc., but only in case of documents in the public domain. We can also make paper copies for you in accordance with copyright law. You can order bulk copies of bulk type of copies at the mentioned email address. Services for libraries and their patrons are provided mainly via ILO services. We are the National Library. We are the National Center for ILO services. In addition to the National Library, there are other 5 Czech libraries that are obliged to provide international interlibrary service. And also, of course, the National Library cooperates with other Czech libraries to fulfill requests from abroad. Next one, please. When it comes to ILO services, the laws and copies could be ordered via our online form, via email, or via OCLC. Our condition when it comes to prices and loan periods are described on our website. We accept IFLA vouchers. Zdenko already said some information about our COVID history. During spring lockdown in 2020, we had to stop all IL services because we are working from home. Libraries are closed to the public and also our users had to stay at home. We had another, let's say, short lockdown in autumn, and the last one started after Christmas and hasn't finished yet. In this period, we were not able to provide our users at least, or we were able to provide our users at least with copies delivered from other libraries, but our own stocks were closed, so we are not able to provide loans and copies from our collections to other libraries. Last week we had opened part of our circulation services, and when it comes to IL services, we are trying to return to something which could be described as more or less normal service or normal operations. So hopefully. Next one, please. When it comes to IL, I would like to draw your attention to following sources which are important for IL services. First of them is the Union Catalog of the Czech Republic, which contains more than 7.6 million records, representing books and other types of documents located in more than 500 Czech libraries. And the second one, well known to you, is a WordCat. The National Library imports its records to WordCat, but also other Czech libraries have started to cooperate with WordCat, so you can find our holdings there as well. Next one, please. And the last service I would like to talk about is a virtual reference service of Czech libraries called Ask a Library. Almost 100 libraries offer their reference services through a service called Ask a Library. We answer almost 3,200 requests or queries per year. Approximately 1/3 of the answers could be found.
Tak mi to pojď najít, když jsi tak chytrej.
I'm sorry. Approximately 1/3 of the answers could be found in the public archive of question answers, which is an important part of Ask a Library website. This archive is indexed by Google, so it means that answers from Ask a Library archive appears in Google results and promote the service. Sometimes you can find there also your own answers, so it's quite funny. Archive also includes answers to questions from abroad. This service is mainly used by Czech and Slovak users, but we will be happy to answer your questions as well, so feel free to ask us. Ask a Library becomes among our websites with the highest traffic. In 2020, it was visited by more than 1 million visitors, so we are happy about it. Next one, please. Here you can see the main page of Ask a Library. Users can either enter their queries in several forms or several ways. They can use our web forms. They can ask by subject or by region. In that case, they receive the answer by email in 2 working days. They can also use our online chat, which is open during working days from 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. except for Fridays. We close at 1 p.m. on Fridays. In that case, an answer is delivered mostly during the chatting session. Sometimes it's not possible, so in some cases we also deliver this answer by email. Last year we answered more than 1,800 chats, maybe also thanks to COVID-19. Thank you for attention, and now my colleague Maria Haškovcová will continue. Next one, please.
Hello, thank you. I'm from Web Archiving Department, and my presentation will be about Czech Web Archive, which celebrated its 20th anniversary. So next slide, please. So who we are? Web Archive is a digital library which preserves websites for future generation as a significant part of our national heritage. And this very fast changing content would be lost without web archiving. Like many other web archives, we need to consider questions such as what should be archived, because it's not possible to archive everything. What will be in the future, what will be important in the future, because no one knows who are our users and what we can do for them, how to collect archived web content, preserve it, and make it available. All these questions are for building an archive important. So next slide, please. I would like to mention some facts from the history of the web archive. The archive was created as a project of National Library of the Czech Republic, Moravian Library in Brno, and Masaryk University in 2000. Our first archive copies are from 2001. Since 2005, we have been archiving the Czech web regularly. And since 2007, we are members of the IIPC. It's International Internet Preservation Consortium, a large consortium of web archives. Last year, Web Archive celebrated its 20th anniversary, and now we have more than 400 terabytes of data in our archive. So Web Archive has collected over 40 terabytes of data in 20 years. And here you can see the picture of archive copy of the National Library website from 2003. Next slide, please. We work with open source tools developed by the international web archiving community. For crawling, we use Heritrix, and for some special collections, Web Recorder. For access, we use OpenWayback. But we also develop our tools. For example, Cedar, you can see it in the picture below. It's software we have developed to manage electronic resources, websites, and harvests. It's as well open source tool, and it's available at the GitHub, where you can find technical details and if you're interested at our other tools. Next slide, please. Legal issues and Copyright Act. For us, it's important library license, which allows the National Library to make a reproduction of a work, in our case, website, for its own archiving or conservation purposes. So we can archive freely available Czech content, but online access outside the library building is based on contract with publishers or on Creative Commons license. So only less than 1%, actually less than 0.5% of content of our content is available outside the library building. Next slide, please. What is our collection policy? We would like to archive everything, the whole Czech web, but it's not possible, so we had to set up a collection policy. Our collection policy has 3 lines: comprehensive harvests, selective harvests, and topic collections. We have contract with Czech domain provider, and once or twice a year we crawl the whole Czech domain. And there are almost 1.5 million Czech second order domains. For selective harvest, it's important selective approach, as you will see on another slides, and topic collection include resources related to certain event or topic. So next slide, please. Selective harvest focus on Czech resources. It means Czech territory, Czech language, Czech authorship, or Czech content. And it can be on any domain, not only on Czech domain. Harvest focus on resources with historical, scientific, or culture value. Copies are available online, and now we have more than 500 archived websites with online access. They are crawled periodically and cataloged according to RDA rules. In the picture, you can see the catalog of resources that are part of these selective harvests, and they are sorted by topics according to the conspectus method. Next slide, please. Topic collections are collections of resources related to certain event or topic, and they allow more in-depth capture of the topic in electronic resources. And collection can be focused on current event, planned or unexpected, planned, like, for example, elections or anniversaries, or unexpected, like floods, government crisis, terrorist attacks, and so on. Long-term collections are harvested continuously, and you can see some examples: collection of Czech media or resources of Charles University. We also cooperate in creation of collaborative collections of the consortium IIPC, as you will see later. So next slide, please. As I mentioned, since 2007, we are members of IIPC. It's a platform for research and development in the field of web archiving. that has about 60 members, as you can see on the map in the picture. And archives cooperate in working groups like content development working group, preservation research, or training working group. The consortium develops web archiving tools and software, usually open source, and cooperate on large collaborative collections. Here are some examples like climate change, artificial intelligence, Olympics or Paralympics collections, or European refugee crisis. We are also in contact with colleagues from the University Library in Bratislava. And an example of our cooperation is shared topic collection focused on 30th anniversary of the Velvet Revolution, an important event from our common history. So next slide, please. Since last year, the whole world has been dealing with coronavirus COVID-19. And so we prepared topic collection focused on presence and impact of this virus. Resources are harvested daily, and we also accept proposals for resources for archiving from publics and experts. Here you can see some examples. What could you find in this collection, like government resources, medical portals, reactions in the media, volunteer activities, resources exploring the economic, legal, and social impacts of government measures, but also conspiracy theories or artistic reflections. We also participated in a large international collection of the IPC focused on COVID-19, as you can see on another slide. So next slide, please. On the left, you can see a topic collection of Czech resources on our website, and on the right, there is an international collection of the IPC. So next slide, please. Engaging the public. We accept proposals for resources for archiving from the public. On the right, you can see the form on our website, Let's Get Web Archived. And we try to raise awareness about web archiving in various ways. We have a blog called 10 Websites for Eternity, where personalities from various fields suggest websites for archiving. And for us, is this another way how to expand our collection policy, for example. And on social media, we share websites that no longer exist, but we have archive copies in our archive. So if you're interested, you can visit our social media. Next slide, please. So what are our challenges for the future? We would like to make the archive as accessible to the public as possible in accordance with legislation. Big challenge is collection policy and collection profiling, because we still have to think about collection policy and evaluate it and re-evaluate it. Big challenge for all web archive is long-term preservation or archive data, as well as social media archiving, especially personalized content issues. Another big challenge is cooperation with research communities and development of tools for working with archive data, big data, and metadata. And in this context, I would like to mention an ongoing research project, development of centralized interface for extracting big data from web archives, on which we cooperate with University of West Bohemia and Institute of Sociology of the Czech Academy of Sciences. This project deals with analysis of topics and their automatic detection or analysis of audio files. It uses approaches based on deep neural networks for document classification. So this project should bring us a new and interesting perspective on the content of our archive. So that brings us to the end of my presentation. Thank you for your attention, and I would like to hand over to Petra Vávrova, who will talk about long-term preservation of the physical collections. Thank you, and next slide, please.
Dear colleagues, let me introduce our activities of Collection Preservation Division of the National Library of Czech Republic, preservation and conservation of library collections. Next slide, please. First, I would like to introduce our team. Collection Preservation Division is located in an organizational structure under Library Collections and Services, and the division consists of 3 departments: development and research laboratories, Department of Restoration, and Department of Preventive Conservation. We are responsible for complex preservation and conservation, care of the physical condition of library collections in general. Our activities focus on monitoring climate conditions in our storage facilities. We deal with individual and mass conservation of library collections, bookbinding, and other preservation activities. We plan and implement preventive measures against accidents and natural disasters. We collaborate with libraries, institutions, and professional establishments, both in Czech Republic and abroad. Next slide, please. In our division, we have 21 specialists from different professions. We have conservators, chemists, conservation scientists, bookbinders, microbiologists, climatologists, and also more than 70 people working part-time on projects. It is not easy to take care of more than 7.5 million of library materials. My team is rather small to properly handle so many items. We should try to find mass methods or fast methods of conservation. Not only quantity, but also very bad quality of some library materials is problematic, especially when it comes to acidic paper or plastic materials. We provide coordination, methodological, advisory, and consultancy services also. Next slide, please. We have developed two different instruments for conservation survey. The first one is for physical conditions of modern library collections. We described actual physical conditions and damage. We use different methods and instruments, for example, souvenir system or microphotometer and others. Souvenir system is used for determination of paper properties and identification of 45 plastics using chemometry and comparison with material standard. The souvenir device operates on the near-infrared spectroscopy principle. The device provides its results very quickly, and you can successfully use it for surveying physical condition of library collections. Microphotometer is an instrument for determination of light stability and sensitivity of library materials. It is used in the process of developing exhibition strategy to exactly determine the degree of material sensitivity to light. Microphotometer testing system is used for light damage prediction, especially before an exhibition takes place. All obtained data are collected in the central knowledge base for modern collections. Our second instrument for collection survey is called RESIS, a Restoration Information System for Historical Collections. It provides more details about physical state, conservation steps, and materials used in historical collections and for conservation. Knowledge of the type of paper and plastic helps planning preservation activities in book collection. The results need to be used critically to eliminate potential incorrect conclusions. Correct identification is influenced by selecting an appropriate sample type and also by the level of experience with identification of paper and plastics, including the knowledge of the history of paper and plastic productions. Next slide, please. Now I will focus on some of our new instruments which we use to determine and understand book materials and construction of book bindings. as you can see on images, for example, non-destructive and mobile spectrometers for identification of organic compounds, Röntgen fluorescence analyzer to identify chemical elements in library materials, 3D microscope for monitoring of surfaces, video spectral comparator for non-destructive analysis or imaging invisible information, or X-ray chamber for detection of inner bookbinding structure and defects. Here you can see some of inner structure details of bookbindings. The purchase of all these instruments has been kindly supported by the Ministry of Culture of Czech Republic. Next slide, please. In our storage facilities, we also monitor microbiological activity. The testing itself takes place in our microbiological lab. Furthermore, we perform disinfection or disinsection and check our storage facilities using aeroscope. We also help other libraries in the Czech Republic with these procedures. Next slide, please. After floods hit Prague in 2002, a multifunctional vacuum chamber was for drying and disinfection or disinsection of books and paper documents was developed. We use different kinds of drying and safe methods with different types of pressure and temperature values. We still help other cultural institutions after floods or other crises to dry their wet books or other materials. Next slide, please. To protect our collections, we use protective archive quality boxes produced from alkaline cardboard. This cutting plotter Kongsberg is a second generation of the machine and produces protective boxes in different forms and from different materials. Next slide, please. On this slide, you can see different protective boxes produced in different types or forms from different materials like cardboard, plastics, or plastic foam. Next slide, please. Deacidification of acidic paper in our collections, especially in modern collections produced after year 1845, is another field of activity for our division. There are examples of paper damage with acidic substances in our collections. Some books are mechanically damaged. There is disintegrated paper. To reduce the damage, we have decided to apply mass deacidification method called paper-safe Swiss technology, located in Aschau, Germany, as you can see here. Results after deacidification are effective. The pH value increases and also alkaline reserve in paper as a long-term paper stabilization step. Next slide, please. For effective deacidification process in Czech Republic, we have with Ministry of Culture developed a monitoring system called Registry of Deacidified Books in the Czech Republic. It contains information about each deacidified book in the Czech Republic and provides information about pH value before and after deacidification. Next slide, please. We also help cultural institutions in crisis and doing first aid. The Collection Preservation Division has prepared first aid sets for both people and books. The first aid kit produced in the Czech Republic, inspired in foreign countries, is a complete disaster preparedness kit. The kit has been created in collaboration with highly experienced conservators, curators, librarians, and collection managers. The kit is designed to be used primarily by a two-person team and provides a range of items to prevent further damage, document damage, and then cleanup. All institutions can modify this kit. Next slide, please. The Collection Preservation Division, together with collection managers, has also prepared a first aid circle with easy to follow instructions for first aid after different kinds of damage during various types of disasters and different kinds of library materials. Next slide, please. In the early days of the pandemic time, our activities were focused on the initial steps libraries should take. We received a huge amount of questions about risk and activity of the virus. We started to prepare disinfection solution for our staff using World Health Organization guidelines. We used this recipe and added essential oils, its pure substance citronellal, as an antibacterial substance. Later on, there were many questions from libraries in Czech Republic, for example, how to manipulate with books after coming back from readers. So we advised to use mask, respirator, and gloves. They ask also how to make disinfection. So there are a couple of methods, but we don't recommend it using UVA light, gamma irradiation, or ozone, because there are studies about degradation of book materials using these methods. For example, damage of cellulose macromolecule, reduction of mechanical properties, disintegration, and or color changes. So why to use these unsafe methods when there is a very easy and cheap method, quarantine? But we have also recommended using alcohols. Other question was how long it is the virus still alive on different materials of book collections. And there are many studies showing that the virus is still alive on paper or cardboard after a couple of days. We should take this fact in account. And other questions. So next slide, please. Finally, we have prepared this poster. It is answering the basic questions, what to do, how to do it, and how we can work in libraries without risk during the pandemic time. It is an easy to understand recommendation on how to handle books upon check-in during the pandemic. We have recommended to put the books in a separate room, a so-called quarantine, and the employees should use gloves, masks, or respirators. The books should then be left untouched for a couple of days. We have also been in contact with other colleagues from other countries and libraries, and also with colleagues from group of heads of conservation in Europe, libraries. We have translated this poster in few languages in cooperation with colleagues from Slovakia, Poland, Hungary, and other countries. We have prepared other language versions, for example, in English, Polish, or Slovak. So that has been a brief introduction to the Collection Preservation Division and its activities. Thank you for attention. And now my colleague, Dr. Lukáš Babka, will continue. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Petra. Hello, everyone. I'm very glad for the chance to present activities of the Slavonic Library in course of the program of this event. So I want to thank to my colleagues from Slavic Reference Center for this possibility. So I'm representing, next slide please. I'm representing the Slavonic Library, what is a research library working as the department of the National Library of the Czech Republic. In structure of the National Library, we are assigned as autonomous department. The Slavonic Library is public library, so everybody can use our services, but because of our orientation, of course, our users are especially researchers, but researchers not only from the Czech institutions, but also coming from abroad. We We are also one of the centers of Czech Slavic studies, what is a scientific branch with long time tradition in the Czech Republic. Now the Slavonic Library collection contains almost 900,000 volumes of books and periodicals. About half of them is focused on Russian studies. We acquire about between 8 and 9,000 titles a year. In acquisition, the Slavonic Library is interested in all topics related to Slavic studies, Slavic nations and countries, with one exception, with the exception of Czech or Bohemian studies, which is the priority for the National Library of the Czech Republic. For providing our services, there is the separate Slavonic Library reading room located in Klementinum. In fact, we work as the library in the library with separate acquisition, cataloging, and services departments. Next slide, please. Within the web page of the National Library, the Slavonic Library has got a separate chapter presenting its services, history, collections, as well as publishing, culture, and research activities. The activities mentioned as the last ones have always been the priority for the library because conferences, opening ceremonies, etc. have always have allowed people to meet at one place and raise the interest about Slavic studies. So here on the website, you can find more detailed information about the library than in this presentation. Next slide, please. We will celebrate 100th anniversary of the Slavonic Library activities soon. The library was founded in November 1924, originally as the Library of Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But the Slavonic Library has been the branch of the National Library since 1958. I mentioned two main original tasks of the Slavonic Library. The cooperation with the Slavonic Institute, which was established in 1928, was important because of coordination of acquisition policy as well as financing. This institution, now working as the part of Czech Academy of Sciences, has been our close partner until now. It is located right next to the Klementinum building, so it's very comfortable for employees of this institute to come to the Slavonic Library and work in our reading room. The second main task has been influencing our activities until now. The library administrates or houses one of the biggest and most important collections of books and periodicals published by Russian, Ukrainian, and Belarusian emigrants all over the world in interwar period. If I speak about the Russian, Ukrainian, and Belarusian diaspora, I mean refugees who left Russia after the collapse of Tsarist regime and after the Bolshevik putsch. Now, especially in last 30 years after the collapse of communist regime in Czechoslovakia, it's a very popular topic to study the history of Russian, Ukrainian, Belarusian diaspora, especially by foreign users who come to study this topic very often. The collection of periodicals published by these refugees all over the world in interwar period has been protected by UNESCO, which included it in the Memory of the World Register in 2007. This part of the collection was described in a guide called Voices of the Banished, which we published in 2009. Next slide, please. But let's go back to the main task of my presentation, public services. Of course, there are a lot of important categories concerning services of the libraries, but I selected two of them which help us not only hold current users, but also pull new users. First of them is presenting the information about the collection. And the second one is making collection available as simply as possible. So regarding the first task, there are several ways how to present our collection. As my colleagues mentioned, there is the separate online catalog of the Slavonic Library. This catalog was set up in 1997, and now the information about all collection is available there. The inventory lists of a catalog collection of special documents, it means archival documents, visual documents, posters, photographs, fine arts, are available in special collections of the Slavonic Library site. This year, we joined the project of National Museum called sbirky.cz. Participation on this project will allow us to present individual visual documents from special collection section. But I forgot to mention one important point in this summary. Besides creating and developing online catalogs and databases, I find publishing of bibliographies as very useful and important, but also as very difficult activity. This publishing activity and research activity allowed us to present all important collections, all national department, special sub-collections to users, as well as historical collection. Because one of the questions mentioned in Q&A session concerns Czech, Slavonic and Cyrillic historical books, I want to mention the list of books printed in Czech Slavonic script is available as the part of the bibliography of Czech Slavonic script printings housed in the Czech libraries. If the whole book contains about 314 books, titles, the Slavonic Library has got about 160 titles, so it's quite high number. The list of books published in Cyrillic script in course of 18th century, which we have about 1,600, is available in the bibliography of this type of documents. 3 volumes have been published. Now we are finishing the preparation of 4th, the last one volume, which will be published in next 2 or 3 years. Next slide, please. So regarding our online catalog, the Slavonic Library online catalog is searched by 2 large gateways oriented on Slavic studies. Both of them have been developed and they are administered by German research institutions, German libraries. First of them is called Osmikon. It is administered by Bavarian State Library in Munich. The second one is called Slavistic Portal, which is project of Berlin State Library. I strongly recommend, if you don't know them, I strongly recommend you to try to work with these sites because they work as discovery services for Slavic studies. So I find them as very important source of information. Next slide, please. Information about specific parts of the Slavonic Library collection are presented in 2 online union catalogs. First of them is the Union Catalog of Periodicals of Russian Immigration, called emigrantika.ru in Russian, and the second one is focused on Russian books published between 1918 and 1926. Next slide, please. This is the example of Emigrantika project. This site is developed and administered by Alexander Solzhenitsyn House of Russia Abroad in Moscow. And this site presents the bibliographical data of about 2,000 titles of Russian immigrant periodicals from our collection. Next slide. And this is the example of the International Union Catalog of Russian Books, which is project led by Russian National Library. More than 900 institutions all over the world participate on this project. As I know, the Slavonic Library is one of 10 the most important participants of this project. Now we are preparing the shipment of data describing letter U to be put into this union catalog. Next slide, please. To promote the Slavonic Library collection and its services, help us also two special databases created by the Slavonic Library. One of them presents all published papers presented in international congresses of Slavists, which have been organized since 1929. Slavonic Library is responsible for collecting of all published documents from these congresses. So we are preparing the content of this database, and the database called BibSlavCon is administered by Berlin State Library as the part of mentioned about Slavistic Portal project. Now this database contains more than 7,700 records. And the database Who is Who in the Czech Slavic study helps interested persons to find useful contact information for Czech Slavic study specialists. It was useful, it's true. This project was useful, especially in the first years of this century, when wide range of internet only started. Now each university, each academic institution has got full personal contact and bibliographical information, and the role of this database that will be designed. Next slide, please. Regarding the second main challenge stated at the beginning of my paper, I find digitization as the best way how to make the collections simply available for users. Maybe not for serious research, because for that you, for example, you need to hold the manuscripts in your hands and study it, but surely for the brief, for quick research, for just for reading of text. The Slavonic Library has been joining digitization project of the National Library since 1998. Thanks to Manuscriptorium project, Google Books project, and National Digital Library project, we were able to digitize valuable part of the library collection as described on this slide. All these projects were mentioned and described by my colleague. So at the very end of this presentation, I want to show you just two examples of digital documents. So next slide, please. First of them is Manuscriptorium, and here you can see one of Russian manuscripts written in Church Slavonic. This one is called The History of the Conception and Birth of Peter the Great, and was written in the second half of 18th century. Next slide, please. And this is Kramerius, and the example of books published by Russian, Ukrainian, Belarusian diaspora in Czechoslovakia in interwar period. We finished the project of digitization of all books published by this diaspora last year. And now we continue by digitizing of periodicals. So here you can see the book called Russian Icon, written by Nikodim Pavlovich Kondakov, who lived and died in Prague. So thank you for your attention, and maybe let me ask, for example, my colleague Linda to comment several remaining slides. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Łukasz, for that informative session. I'm going to turn this over to my colleague, Olga, to run the Q&A component of our fantastic event.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in chat. So it looks like we have a question from Sylvia. What percentage of all historical documents of the National Library in Prague is already digitized?
So I can answer if it is, and maybe Tomáš will complement me. It depends from one type of materials to another. I think the best situation is in old printed books. Thanks to Google, there we may have 70% of old printed books digitized. We have around 200,000 old printed books in our library. As to manuscripts, the percentage is smaller because the digitization is rather expensive. So it's about 15%. As to in Kunabula, we don't have so much digitization because they are digitized in other libraries. As to modern materials, maybe Tomáš knows better than me.
Yeah, I know. My microphone was muted. To say the direct percent of the documents which were already digitized from the modern collection is pretty tough challenge because, you know, our annual increase of the library units, it's around 100,000 books and periodicals per year. So this number is getting higher and higher, but approximately we digitize less than 40%, but I'm not able to say the proper amount of percent.
Right, thank you very much, Adolf and Tomáš. There's another question from Christopher. I would like to ask about the preservation of 20th century newspapers on poor quality paper, for example, in the Slavonic collection. Are they de-acidified or digitized or both?
The most important part of our newspaper collection was microfilm. And unfortunately, this collection is so large that it's not possible to de-acidify it as a usual work. So we thought about it with Petra, we discussed it, but we must prepare it as a special project because it's too large for the library.
Yeah, and we are doing every year only few hundred kilos. We are de-acidifying this amount of book per year. So we are choosing very acidic paper, but very homogeneous paper or with good mechanical properties, because sometimes it's too late to do something. So when it's destroyed and damaged papers, it's too late to do something.
Thank you. Another question from Olga, who is very curious about the strategy documents that Tomáš mentioned. Any highlights for the 2021-2027 library strategy documents?
The question is on me. It's a very tough challenge to highlight some goals of this strategy because this strategy is very complex. But generally said, there are various activities of the modern librarianships mentioned there, including the support of digitization, the support of the long-term preservation, the support of the modern library buildings creation, the support of long-term, lifelong-term education, and many, many more.
Thank you, Tomáš. Next question is from Janelle. Are social media platforms used for promoting collections? Has it been a critical tool during COVID times?
This question is probably to Karolína Košťálová, I think, because no one of us is a PR expert of the library, Teresa said.
Me neither. As far as I know, my colleagues or our colleagues who are responsible for the digital library were very active at social media, Facebook. So they promoted digital library during COVID time heavily. And the responses from users of digital library were very huge. So as far as I know, in case of social media, we promote especially digital collections.
I would just add something to this, that during operation of the National Digital Library, which was for the universities and R&D, it was very instrumental to communicate all the things which were done like almost in like hours or few days. They need to be communicated with these new platforms of the social media, and the impact of the readers and the questions and feedback from them was very, very essential for our development.
Thank you. Right, there is next question from Dimitra. How many people work full-time for the web archive?
So I have 5 colleagues, but not for all of them is it full-time job. So actually we have 3 full-time colleagues, I think. But we are in touch with another department of our library, especially with Zdenko Vozár's department, support application. I don't know the right name. Support for library application department. Yes, so that's answer.
Thank you.
So maybe just a little bit answer more from our department. It's 1.5 people who are working for support of web archive. It depends on variable time, but it's like 1 to 1.5 person who make the technical support of web archive activities.
Right, so there's from Joe. Thank you again for wonderful presentations. Your team mentioned storage facilities. How many storage facilities are there?
I'm not sure that I understand the Joe's question correctly, but the storages are located in 3 locations of the National Library of Czech Republic. Of course, in the Klementinum, in the main library building, the biggest depositories are located in the Central Depository and Hoskivar, and we have also small repository building approximately 30 kilometers away from Prague in Nejatovice. So there are 3 depositories. And as I mentioned now, we have the place for around 8, maybe 9 million of the volumes of documents.
Thank you, Tomáš.
And if I can add some information that we have system Hanvel, and we are monitoring all depositories and measuring temperature and relative humidity. And where there are some changes, we can solve it and regulate the climate conditions.
Thank you, Petra. And I believe you all did a great job addressing questions that were asked during registration process. There might be one. Are there any services in particular that are geared towards younger generations or youth?
Yes, this question aimed to me. Of course, we are generally open for the young generation, children and the youth. There are various projects inside of the Czech librarianships to support the reading of this younger generation. Many of them are worldwide known, so as The Night with Andersen or Bookstart and other projects like this.
Thank you.
Any other last questions for our amazing presenters from the National Library of the Czech Republic? A congratulations message from one of our participants. Yeah. Thank you. And we are going to be sharing the presentation and the recording. That's part of our event protocol. So we look forward to doing that. And I would like to thank our presenters, our colleagues from the National Library, not only for their expertise, but also their generosity. I realize how late it is there. So please join me in thanking them for presenting and sharing some of the resources that they've been working, which obviously many years in the making. So thank you very much to our colleagues from the National Library of the Czech Republic.
Yes, thank you very much. Before we end, there's one more question. How does the web archiving team deal with quality control? Very often websites are not archived completely.
The quality control is the big topic for all web archives, and we don't have any tools for automatic quality assurance, but our curators try to control quality of archived web, which are part of harvests, selective harvests. So that's the question, and we are interested in new tools which will be able to do automatic quality assurance, but we don't have it yet. So that's the answer.
Yes, thank you.
All right, looks like there are no other comments or questions. All right, if any of your libraries are interested, I know there are colleagues from other national libraries, please reach out. We would love to feature your national library and the work that everyone is doing there. So thank you again, and I wish everyone a very good day and evening. So rest up and good health to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.